Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Wristwatch production. My name is Brandon, and this is my review of Legend of Korra, Book 4, Episode 9, Beyond the Wilds. This episode of Legend of Korra is focused on people getting abducted in the Spirit Wilds portion of Republic City. And Korra uses her energy projection powers, and she finds out that Kuvira's troops are cutting down spirit vines and struggling. And then basically Varrick and Bolin show up. They tell President Raiko and Tenzin and Lin and Prince Wu all about the spirit vines and that Kuvira is using the vines to build a spirit nuke. And so that's about as far as we really get with anything Kuvira related. There's also Opal and Lin who decide that they're going to go and assassinate Kuvira, or not really assassinate Kuvira, but they're going to go get their mom and the rest of their family out of Zaofu. Well, Lin's sister, Opal's mom, out of Zaofu. And we also have a sort of arc where Bolin is trying to repair things with Opal, and doing so rather unsuccessfully. Like, Opal's being very, kind of a bitch. I mean, with good reason. But then she tells Bolin that she needs that basically in order for Bolin to make things right, he has to go on a suicide mission with her to rescue their family. And that's the only way that he can make things right. And you got it right at the end of the episode, and you got Bolin given that look like, let's go. And so I'm pretty psyched for the next episode. I'm psyched for every next episode of Korra. That doesn't change. That has not changed once. I'm always psyched for the next episode. Yeah, as far as that goes, that's what happens. Bolin comes back. He tries to reconcile things with Opal. When Bolin and Varrick both come back, Varrick also ends up having to work for Reiko with Asami to basically create essentially a nuclear deterrent, something that will stop Kuvira's process, something that will counteract Kuvira should she try to make a move. So they're basically working on, I guess you can almost say, like a Manhattan Project type thing that they have going on here with Asami and Varrick. So that's where things are for Varrick and Bolin. As for things with Mako and Prince Wu, Mako basically ends up going with Korra into the Spirit Wilds because Jinora ends up getting captured by some spirit vines. They find out that the vines are keeping people in these glowing cocoons, I guess, and they actually have their spirits trapped in the spirit world. So Korra finally goes to confront Zahir. And this was a really interesting exchange, I thought. The exchange between Korra and Zahir, where we sort of get this Hannibal Lecter vibe from Zahir. And it's pretty cool, where he basically guides Korra to her goal. And at first I was kind of having an issue with it, but then what I ultimately realized is Zahir was never going to kill Korra out of a desire to kill the Avatar. He was going to kill Korra and end the Avatar state as part of his belief system. I don't think he ever really had anything personal against Korra, and now in this case, Korra's objective and his objective align, so he is willing to help Korra, especially considering Korra really does have a well of power within her, and she just can't seem to tap it. And so she manages to tap into Rava. And a couple interesting things we have in this scenario. First of all, Korra finally gets over her moping and self-worth type stuff for a little bit. And I mean, granted, it makes sense that she's down on herself. I think it's kind of funny that she ever considered herself unstoppable, despite how many times she got bodied by other people. Still, it's still nice to see her get over that. But, even then, again, it's still really understandable given, how such a strong theme within the series that appears to be present is the time of the Avatar is over, the Avatar is unnecessary, and Korra is, in fact, the Avatar. And so it makes sense that she's down on herself, that she doesn't feel like she can accomplish anything, especially considering she was gone for, 3 years. But I think it's nice to see her sort of get over that hump, and hopefully we'll see some good old-fashioned, Korra shit for the next 4 episodes, because again, there's 4 episodes left. There's 4 episodes left, and this season has felt a bit slower than you would almost expect. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but stuff needs to really happen. I feel like this season has constantly had a feel of, that episode was alright, but hopefully it picks up in the next episode, and I feel like that's been happening every single episode. The other thing about Korra's whole spiritual journey that was interesting was when she connected with Rava, and Rava said, you are at your strongest in the spirit world because you have such a wealth of spiritual power, and the spirit world is made up of this spiritual power. You can manipulate it directly. And it's one of those things where I think it really compounds onto my belief that book 2 should have been a concept best left as the final book. Because if you really take a lot of the stuff that happens in book 2, and if you were to put it at the end, after book 3, after book 4, I think it would make far more sense. I mean, obviously there would be a lot of things that would have to change within the writing. At a fundamental level, you can't just say, oh, we'll just switch these two things around and it's fine. You have to change things at a very fundamental and very core level. But I think the idea of the whole harmonic convergence thing, and after Korra's become adept with her spirit abilities and everything like that, and having that at the end of the series is just something that makes far more sense than having that 2 books in and now the next 2 books have to deal with this aftermath. It's an equally interesting concept in my book because I always feel like the aftermath is always a concept that's equally as interesting as the actual major event but just always gets ignored. I think it's very interesting to note that the Avatar is actually extremely powerful within the spirit world because of how powerful of a spiritual presence the Avatar has. I mean, it's even been noted that Zahir has been spending tons of time in the spirit world and that there are spirits in that world that have been saying, oh, the Avatar spirit has been gone for some time. So, and that explains it. But as far as things go, that's it for that. I mean, she reconnects with Rava and everything like that. Now her next goal is to head over to see what to do about Kuvira. I mean, that was sort of also the whole thing with Raiko and everything like that. We get to see Zuko's daughter, Azumi, basically say like, hey, the Fire Nation doesn't want to get involved in another all-out like offensive. Like the Fire Nation wants to build its reputation back up by, defending and helping progress culture and stuff like that. And we can't do that if we're always going on the offense. And I think it's kind of an interesting thing that she points that out, especially considering her dad helped pull the Fire Nation out of this horrible image of being this brutal, aggressive offender to the world and tried to make it better again, and she's just trying to uphold that ideal. So I also found that scene funny where Korra was upset that they would pull Wu in over Korra. And once again, it pulls into Korra's self-worth as an Avatar, and also if the rest of the world really feels that the Avatar is even necessary to begin with. But it was an interesting point to note, and I think it even plays even more that Wu is definitely just Raiko's pawn, and nobody can do anything about it because it's the family business for Wu, I guess. Aside from that, there's not really much else to go on in this episode. I find it kind of weird that the spirit vines were doing what they were doing. They were taking people and they were holding them. I'm not sure, were they holding them hostage? Were they holding them for some other purpose? I'm not exactly sure how the spirit vines were even capable of that to begin with. But aside from that, yeah, it was a good episode. It had some good stuff going on in it, but we have tons of setup for the next episode. We have Opal, Lin, and Bolin going in on a very dangerous mission, and we have the United Nations and Korra now trying to decide, well, what the hell do we do next? And Varric and Asami are working on a project that I'm not sure if anybody else knows about. I can't remember if Raiko mentioned it to anybody else, but I'm sure other people will figure it out. It can't be that much of a secret. Still, though, we've got a lot of stuff going on into the next episode, and I can't wait to see what that's all about. So thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.